Hello again. We've got an airsoft pistol this time, a very cool one at that. This is the KWC Po8. This is of course a replica of the Po8 Luger pistol. Now before I continue, I'd just like to say that this is just sort of from my perspective as a firearms enthusiast and sort of a collector. Not a major collector, but I just like to collect replicas. I don't use this to play airsoft. I don't play airsoft at all. I just have this one in my display cabinet because it's a very nice replica and it's nice to handle now and then, and it's just a bit of fun to sometimes shoot. Not that I really have the space for that. I could just sort of plink with it occasionally in the shed. That's about it. But for me it's mainly for collection. So if you're wanting to know if it's any good for skirmishing, couldn't tell you. Anyway, so as I said, the KWC Po8 Luger replica, obviously made in Taiwan by KWC, and this is, in my opinion, one of their better guns. I have a couple of guns by KWC. This one feels the most solid, it feels the heaviest and the most convincing. It also has, I would say, the markings aren't too bad on this one. Some airsoft guns, they go a bit overboard with the markings. Certainly on this side it's not too bad. Now I've said numerous times with my knife videos, to me at least, usually you've got your display side or your show side and your non-display side. Usually your display side is the nicer side, if you will. So to me, to display this would be your nicer side, because the only markings that you have on this that you really wouldn't want is here where it says Cal 6mm, and that's obviously for airsoft BBs. But on the other side we've got KWC made in Taiwan and a serial number, which I think it is a real serial number for countries that require it. They also, and there's also the F there to say that this is a non-restricted firearm in Germany. Now this is, as I said, it is the airsoft version, but you do actually get it as an air pistol version in 177, which fires steel BBs. It's basically the same. I think the 177 version fires maybe 0.4 joules more. I think that's what it says in the manual for this one. This one fires right about the joule and a half mark, I think, so it's not popular. I wouldn't want shot with it point blank. It would hurt. Obviously it wouldn't do any real damage unless it hit you in the eye. The story behind this, I've wanted one of these pretty much all my life. If you ask me, the Luger, the Po8, whatever you want to call it, is just one of the coolest pistols, the coolest firearms ever made. I've always loved these. I've always sort of liked Second World War games and anything to do with that, and I always thought this was a really interesting pistol. I always wanted to get the 177 steel BB firer, never had the money for it, and now that I do have the money for it, we need a license for air guns in Scotland, but thankfully the license doesn't apply to airsoft guns under 2.5 joules, so yeah, my girlfriend got me this one for Valentine's, so I'm glad to have this pistol, and I'm glad that I don't have to have the police snooping around for licensing reasons. So it's nice to have this. But anyway, it is nice and weighty. It is mostly metal, not the greatest of metal, but that's just how it is with airsoft. Really, the only plastic in this is in the grips, which is okay because the real thing would have had plastic grips. Either that or they would have had wooden grips, but I think a lot of them did have, maybe not plastic, it'd be Bakelite. It's still fairly convincing. I think this this lever here might also be plastic, possibly the safety catch and part of the cock-in, but I can't really tell. But other than that, the whole thing is, well, the lower might be plastic. Some of these pistols, the lower feels like it's made of metal, but it's actually plastic. It's not until you fully disassemble them that you realise, yeah, that's actually plastic. But the outer barrel and the top receiver and the toggle is all metal, I'm glad to say. Trigger could be either or. Magazine release, I think, is plastic. Magazine, however, the magazine on these guns is usually the highest quality part. These are almost all metal. Sometimes they're steel, sometimes it's some other metal. Couldn't begin to tell you what. And this is the gas blowback version. Of course, it is the CO2 version. I could have got the gas version, but I did prefer the CO2 version, since most of my other guns, my other pistols, are CO2, and CO2 just seems to last a bit longer. It hits a bit harder, and I just prefer it. I don't know why. I've always been that way. When I had air guns before, some of them, the replica pistols anyway, were CO2, so I'm just used to it, and the CO2 seems to be a bit cheaper anyway. Now, you can actually disassemble this gun pretty much the whole way. I thought about doing it on camera, but I feel like I might end up breaking it. I did disassemble it a while ago, and one of the springs flew out, and I spent half an hour looking for it, because it's a tiny wee spring that's really hard to find, and I've got a dark carpet, so it's difficult to find. And if I was to drop it here and it flies into the sink or flies onto the floor, I'll never find it. But you can just you just swivel this catch down. That lifts, I'm not sure if it's meant to lift out, but this plate here comes off, and I'm pretty sure you could take the front of the barrel off. I've not actually done anything with this pistol for a little while, but we do have good close attention to detail. In fact, one thing I'd like to show you here, I'm not sure what this is for, but you notice it says 15 on the takedown lever, 15 on this plate, and on the safety catch there, which does work. You can see when it pops up, it's also got 15 on it. I'm not really sure why. Maybe that's just serializing, just to make it look more convincing, have everything the same. I can't really be too sure. We don't have that anywhere else on the gun, at least not that I could see. I had wondered if it was on the toggle, which it isn't. I think I mentioned that this is a gas blowback, and there's no markings at all on the magazine. By the way, there is gas in that. I just put a new one in, but there's actually, I better drop the toggle, but there's no BBs in it. If we have a look here at the safety catch, F and S, I don't think the real one would have had that, but you can see there we've got a small, we've got some writing right there on the other side of the safety catch. It's German. I forgot what that actually means. I did look it up at one point. So that's it on fire there. Again, I don't think the real one would have had that dot. So that's safe, that's fire, and I will shoot it for you just in a little minute. But yeah, it's as simple to operate as you would think. You just take out the magazine, put your gas in, Allen key to undo the screw, and you just, as with most airsoft guns, just pull it down and put the BBs in manually one by one. This does not require a speed loader, nor does it come with one. Put the magazine into the gun and then simply just pull back the toggle, and that's the gun cocked. Now if there was a BB in the magazine, the toggle would have just went straight forward, but as it's empty, the toggle is staying up. There is no magazine release on this like with other pistols, such as this. So if there's no BBs in the chamber, the only way to uncock the gun, or sorry, put the toggle down, is to remove the magazine and simply just pull back on the toggle, and then it closes. Now it's still cocked at this point, and obviously it doesn't have a decocker either, so if you're ready to put it away, put the safety catch off, almost forgot, and just pull the trigger. Now speaking of the trigger, I quite like the shape of the Luger trigger. It's something I've always liked about this gun. It's just one of those things that just makes the Luger stand out, is the shape of that trigger. And it's nice to pull, it's quite comfortable. I personally feel like with the grip as a whole, you're and I know you're not supposed to have your finger on the trigger, it's just for demonstration. The gun's empty, as you've seen. The grip as a whole, as well as the feel of the trigger, feels quite nice. It's got a very short pull, there's very little distance there. I think that's a good thing because there's a lot less things to go wrong. I kind of feel like the more travel the trigger has, the more space there is for something to go wrong. Keeping in mind things like this aren't expensive. In my opinion, they're not really high performance, they're just for a bit of fun. So things can and do go wrong. I have had trigger issues with certain replicas before. Now there's something else I'd like to draw your attention to. If we have a look right here by the toggle and the safety catch, if I pull the trigger, you can see that move. So we do have quite a lot of moving parts. I'm not really sure why that there is silver when the rest is black, but I'm not complaining too much. I like the detail on the toggle as well. There's not a whole lot going on there, but it's exactly what you want. Now I guess if it was a lot more detailed, it would cost a lot more money. I wouldn't mind buying a more expensive one if it was more detailed. As I said, it is my favourite pistol. I think the quality on these is quite good. I don't think I've handled any other ones other than the KWC. I did handle a 177 version in an airgun shop years ago. Don't remember what make that was. It was possibly KWC as well. I'm not sure if Cybergun makes one of these. Can't quite remember. Now the sights are non-adjustable. It's just your sort of standard Luger sights. I'm not sure if they ever did come with adjustable sights or not. I don't know a whole lot about the pistol as much as I love it. The texture on the gun feels fine. Nothing to get excited about. And we do also have, I think those are actually real screws there. And the reason I'm pointing out that those are real screws is some replicas, the screws actually aren't real, such as on this Olympic 6 blank firing revolver. I thought that was a real screw, so I tried to take off the grip, but it's not, it's literally moulded in. So I guess if you want to take these grips off, you just have to pry it off. Then again, these are a lot cheaper than that Airsoft gun. These are only about £40–50, whereas the Luger is about 100–110, sometimes more or less, depending on where you go. Now, some other points about the gun. In fact, let me just check, is it still cocked? Because I don't like leaving them cocked. No, it's fine. Makes me a bit nervous. A couple other points I'd like to make about this Airsoft pistol. We do have this, what I assume to be some sort of like lanyard loop, where you would maybe attach a lanyard to attach it to your belt. I think that's something that they did during the First and Second World War. I'm not entirely sure. Like I said, I don't know all that much about it. And we've also got a lug here to attach a stock. I wonder if a real stock would fit onto that. I believe that you can actually get replica stocks for this. In fact, I think you actually get the wooden stocks where the pistol actually fits inside it. I thought about getting one of them, but they're kind of pricey. And the similar idea that you get the wooden stock, which is also a holster for the C96, is that what it's called? C96 boom handle Mauser. I quite fancy getting a replica of those as well. I've got to say, I'm quite into the replica German firearms. I quite fancy some of the British ones as well. In fact, a replica Webley service revolver is high on my list. It's just those are expensive. Those are £150 upwards, depending on what version you want. I think I'd prefer to get the version without the safety catch, as it's more true to the original. Same story with that. They first came out with them in 177, but they're also available as Airsoft. So maybe I'll get one of those. Now, as with most Airsoft guns, it does, in fact, I'm just going to open the bolt for this. With most Airsoft guns, and it's not going to be pointing at me, we do have that In fact, I'll have to close it to show you this properly. We do have that smaller inner barrel, which I think might be made of brass. It might not be, I'm not sure. But we do have the thinner inner barrel for the Airsoft BB. And obviously the outer barrel is more open to make it look a lot more realistic, so that would make it display a lot easier. And I don't think this is exactly 9mm, in fact. Yeah, see, look at that. So these are actually a little bit bigger than the actual 9mm cartridge. That's a real 9x19. Obviously it's inert, there's no powder in that, and it's already been fired. So that kind of just further proves that you cannot convert these to fire live ammunition. I still can't believe some people believe that you can actually convert replicas to fire real ammunition. I mean, the metal on these, if you want to blow up your hand, on you go, that's up to you. And we can, in fact, I'll lock it again. The only way to lock this gun open is to put the magazine in, and obviously we can see right through the chamber to the bottom of the magazine housing, which is just a little feature I quite like. The more realistic these airsoft guns are, the better, I think. And in fact, something else I forgot to mention, it actually moves quite a bit. Yeah, I'm pretty sure all of this can be disassembled from the lower, but like I said, I don't want to do that because there's a fine spring in there that's easy to lose and a pain in the ass to refit. You can really see just how much it moves. In case you're wondering, is it possible, because this is just one of those things that I sometimes wonder, can you cock the gun like this if you wanted to? I don't think so. Maybe you could. Probably wouldn't be a good idea though. But you can see there's actually a lot going on in there in terms of the mechanism. It just makes this one of the most interesting handguns ever made, in my opinion. So I suppose now I'll just give you a short shooting demonstration so you can see the blowback. Again, there's no BBs in this and it's pointing at a safe direction. So just flip off the safety catch and pull the trigger. Yeah, that was a nice blast. I don't know if you saw that on the camera there, but I saw a nice puff of CO2 coming out. I just put a fresh cartridge in. It's one of the really fun things about shooting CO2 guns is the first couple of shots you get a nice big blast of CO2. I don't know if you could hear that noise there, but my microwave is literally right beside me there, and the CO2 is actually hitting off it and it's sort of making a banging noise. This is one of those guns where I kind of wish that it did have some sort of way to keep it firing without having to take the mag out. I'm not really sure if you should or not. Some people say you shouldn't dry fire replicas or air guns or airsoft. Maybe. I've never had it being a problem other than some cheap spring guns, but with gas guns I've never found it to be a problem. It's just fun to dry fire them, especially in the house. I mean, like I said, I don't really have space to fire it. I don't really want to take it out to the shed just to dry fire it a few times, but it seems to be fine doing it just here. Oh, not cocked. Suppose I'll just do it one more time. Yeah, this thing is just so much fun to have in the collection and to play around with occasionally. Also, speaking of that 9mm cartridge from before, whoops, it actually does fit. Now obviously you're not going to chamber that, but I'm just pointing out that you can drop it in there if you want. So if you want something like this for photography purposes, and you know, that's another reason I like to collect these. They're kind of fun to take photos of. I like to do that every now and then, make it look a bit more realistic. Yeah, so you can put ammunition in there. However, you cannot close the gun with that in there because there is no chamber. Just another little thing to make it a bit more interesting. Anyway, I don't think I've really got anything more to add to this. So hopefully you found that sort of enjoyable, at least if you did, please a like. I've got a couple of more airsoft pistols that I'm going to do a video on. I've got a couple of airsoft rifles that I would also like to do videos on, and it's just the space because here I physically don't have the space, and I would do it standing up, but I'm very fidgety, I can't stand still. So hopefully I'll work something out. I've got the ICS L85, which is a fantastic airsoft replica of the S80. Although I need to sort of fix it. I broke one of the wires off. I need to solder it back on. I've also got an SRC M4. I think the motor's burnt out on that, but that was my first high quality airsoft gun. Got that about seven or so years ago. I need to get that fixed, and I'd like to do a video of that eventually as well. And I think the last one I have is the SRC MP5. The MP5 and the M4 are the silly colours, they're both orange, but the rest of them are black because I basically got an exemption. You basically just buy it. I need to do a video on that because it's the simplest exemption there is, and it only costs 20 quid. And you don't have to do this crap of the day where you have to play airsoft so many times, or you know what I mean. It's a lot. It's still bootlicking at the end of the day, if you ask me. I mean, it's a toy, let's be honest. It's a lot less bootlicking nonetheless, but a lot less of it. Probably upset one or two airsofters. Anyway, thanks for watching. Do let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you later.